Welcome to episode 51, the first episode of season 4 of Uncovering the Corners of the World podcast. I'm your host, Karina Kosmala. As the days are getting longer and the temperature rises, this season we are exploring the hottest places and attractions that you could visit this summer. This episode specifically is a road trip from Illinois to the Florida Keys. These are first-hand accounts from a recent trip, some places you find when you're traveling that you previously might not have known about, that is mixed in with some historical information from various sources. Our first attraction takes us to Tennessee to walk through a museum honoring one of the most dangerous jobs that exists: tow truck drivers. The International Towing and Recovery Hall of Fame and Museum is located at 3315 Broad Street in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's the only museum in the world that represents the towing industry with memorabilia and artifacts. The museum tour starts off with a presentation explaining the history behind tow trucks, from the first tow truck that was built to the fastest truck. After the short film, visitors are allowed to tour the 2 floors of the museum. Some of the most interesting trucks you can find include a 1913 Locomobile W-485 Holmes Wrecker that was sold in the early 1900s for $485 and included a 6-cylinder engine with 82 horsepower. Passing through the museum, you can find the world's fastest wrecker, a 1979 Chevrolet Silverado. This wrecker reached over 130 miles per hour at Talladega in 1979. The further that you walk through the museum, you can see tow truck parts from the early 1900s, such as oil receivers, mechanical lift-a-car jacks, and much more. Next, we are traveling to the most southeastern state in the United States, Florida. Florida borders Georgia, Alabama, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Atlantic Ocean. It's no surprise that there are over 7,700 lakes and nearly 1,700 rivers and streams in the state. The Myakka River stretches for 66 miles, but 12 of those miles can be found at the Myakka River State Park. The Myakka River State Park is located at 13208 State Road 72 in Sarasota, Florida. It is known as the oldest and largest state park in Florida. Traveling through the Myakka River State Park might feel like you're on an expedition to observe these animals in their natural habitat. Alligator eyes can be seen peeking out of the rivers, while the park offers a guided boat tour through the park to see these prehistoric predators up close. Many of the alligators lay in the part of the park that is known as the Deep Hole, a 131-foot deep sinkhole. But the only way to get to that location is to get a permit from the ranger. Though alligators aren't the only animals that you can find. Wild turkeys, sandhill cranes, storks, wild boars, hawks, snakes, and even lizards can be found on the trails or even crossing the roads in the park. One of the trails includes a canopy walkway that is 25 feet above ground, and it is attached to an observation tower that ascends visitors 74 feet in the air to see the entire park in view. Depending on the time of day, viewers can see different birds in the treetops, wetlands, and prairies. Lastly, we drive on the famous Overseas Highway considered to be the highway that goes to sea. It's a 113-mile highway stretching from the Florida Keys all the way to Key West. The highway passes through 5 regions: Key Largo, Isla Mirada, Marathon, Big Pine, the Lower Keys, and Key West, whereas the entire Florida Keys includes 1,700 smaller islands. For the most part, when driving across the overseas highway, you'll only see open waters with the Gulf of Mexico and the Florida Bay on one side and the Atlantic Ocean on the other side. At one point, you might see a road running alongside it. That's known as the Old 7 Mile Bridge. The Old 7 Mile Bridge is connected to Pigeon Key, an island that measures 5 acres. In the 1900s, construction workers that worked on the Florida Keys Overseas Railroad lived on the island Pigeon Key. Henry Flagler had an idea to build a railroad that traveled from Florida to Florida Keys. The Old 7 Mile Bridge was part of that railroad bridge. It was completed in 1912, but the railroad didn't survive for too long, when in 1935 Hurricane Donna destroyed part of that railroad. The part of the railroad that was turned into a roadway was the Old 7 Mile Bridge that now runs from Marathon to Pigeon Key. Today, visitors can travel to Pigeon Key by ferry boat or walk or bike on the Old 7 Mile Bridge. The Old 7 Mile Bridge is approximately 2.2 miles and it starts in Marathon, ends in Pigeon Key. On the island Pigeon Key, visitors can take a guided tour to learn about the history of the Old 7 Mile Bridge. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you want to learn more about the International Towing and Recovery Museum, visit the official museum website, internationaltowingmuseum.org. To learn more about the Myakka River State Park, visit the website floridastateparks.org on Myakka River State Park. Lastly, if you want to learn more about Florida Keys and Pigeon Key, visit the website floridakeys.com and visitflorida.com. Have a great week.